Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's call with Department of Labor and Industry's Acting Secretary, Jennifer Barrier. I'm Teresa, Deputy Communications Director for L&I. Before we get started with opening remarks, I'd like to provide you with a few quick reminders about today's virtual media briefing. If you have questions, please use the chat icon located in the lower right-hand side of your screen to submit your name and media outlet. When you are next in the queue, you'll receive a message that reads, "The host will ask you to unmute." Please click that button. Then I will announce your name and media outlet, and you may ask your question live at that time. Following the call, we will provide participating media outlets with a link to the recording. For your awareness, this call is being recorded. If you do not consent to being recorded, please hang up now. Any reporters wishing to record this briefing may do so now. Let's get started with comments from Acting Secretary Jennifer Barrier. Secretary?
All right. Thank you, Teresa, and thank you everyone else for joining me this afternoon. I'm Jennifer Barrier, Acting Secretary with the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry. Earlier today, I announced that Pennsylvania's unemployment compensation program will transition to a new system in a few months. We expect that switchover to take place on June 8th. This change will make filing for unemployment compensation and its two extensions, the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation and Extended Benefits programs, faster and easier for out-of-work Pennsylvanians. The new system will make it easier for employers to manage their part of these unemployment programs. And it will also be much less cumbersome for our staff and our partners to use when they are working on unemployment claims. This means the new system will allow us to be more focused on what we want to be focused on, the people we serve. Currently, Pennsylvania's unemployment programs are running on an archaic mainframe that we've been using for more than 40 years. As many of you know, Pennsylvania has been working to modernize its unemployment compensation program, and we had almost reached that goal line when our plans, like so many others, were interrupted last year by the COVID-19 pandemic. In collaboration with the governor, Pennsylvania's legislators, and other key stakeholders, we pressed pause on the move to a new unemployment system so we could direct all of our staff, all of our resources, all of our energy towards helping the unprecedented surge of Pennsylvanians who became unemployed due to the pandemic. Now we're seeing that more Pennsylvanians are returning to work and lower numbers of new unemployment claims. We've reached a point where we can take the final steps towards the transition to a new and improved system. The system will be easier for unemployed Pennsylvanians to use because it looks and functions like a modern website, unlike our current one. It will use formatting we're familiar with from other user-friendly websites that most of us use every day. It will be easier to use on mobile and tablet devices. It will emphasize communication with users, enabling claimants and employers to receive and respond to alerts and documents from UC staff. And it will allow users to easily access and update more of their personal information. It will just be overall a better customer service experience. Of course, making a major change like this will require some adjustments. During this transition, the UC claims systems will need to be taken offline for users for a period of approximately 2 weeks. Labor and Industry will be providing regular updates regarding this and other changes in the coming weeks. We want everyone to feel comfortable about using the new UC system when we make the transition. While we believe that most Pennsylvanians will intuitively understand how to use the system, we also recognize that anytime you make a change of this magnitude, people will need help. That's why over the next 2 months, we will be conducting extensive outreach to the public and groups that work with unemployed Pennsylvanians to provide education and training materials, user guides, and live workshops. We want everyone who uses the new system to feel comfortable and prepared. The workshops will be announced to the news media, on our social media channels and website, and through service providers. And we encourage anyone who will be using the new system to join our UC experts before the transition occurs in June. It is important to us that every Pennsylvanian who will be receiving payments through the unemployment compensation pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, or extended benefits programs during and after the transition in June understand how to use the new system. Using it will be necessary to certify weekly claims, file new claims, access claims information, file an appeal, check a payment status, and complete other critical activities. Change is never easy, but in the case of a 40-year-old technology, the time for change has come. Ultimately, this new system will make the process of unemployment claims easier for everyone. UC staff and our vendor Geographic Solutions Inc. have worked hard on building this new system, and we're excited to finally be unveiling it because we know that it will be an enormous improvement. Becoming unemployed is already a difficult enough time. This new system will make the process to file for unemployment easier, faster, which means out-of-work Pennsylvanians will be better able to focus their attention on what we know they really want to focus on, finding a new job. Our goal is to modernize the overall process, instill public confidence, and make it easier for Pennsylvanians who file for unemployment claims to receive the payments to which they are entitled. There is a hardworking and fully dedicated team committed to ensuring the smoothest transition possible and helping Pennsylvanians file their claims. L&I will provide regular and important updates through the media and on our social media channels before, during, and after the transition occurs to the new UC system. I encourage everyone to follow us on Twitter and Facebook and check uc.pa.gov regularly to ensure to stay up to date during the transition process. Thank you, and I will now take your questions.
Thank you for those comments, Madam Secretary. Our call today is focused on providing an update regarding the transition of L&I's new employment compensation system. If you have questions, please submit your name and media outlet in the chat box. I will then send a message asking you to unmute your audio, and you will be able to ask your question live at that time. We're going to pause for one moment here and wait for our first question to come in. First on deck today, we have Tom Lehman from WGAL. Tom?
Secretary, thanks for taking some time to talk about this today. I hope that the new website certainly helps a lot of people. I wanted to ask you, what kind of assurances can you offer people that when you have this major change take place, that they're actually going to be able to continue using these services or see as little of an interruption as possible? And I ask this because we've seen the existing system go through a number of different adjustments, especially as we saw the extensions to unemployment benefits. But I mean, we're still getting messages from people left and right that tell us there was some kind of interruption, there was some kind of problem, and some of this sounds like it still stems from the interruptions that we saw a few months ago. And so I'm wondering, can you be, I guess, a little bit more specific on some of the transition details and how you're going to prevent that kind of a big interruption or big problem from happening with this transition?
Thank you for your question, Tom. And I think it's really important to point out that, yes, we've had some glitches over the past year with our mainframe system because it's a 40-year-old system. So, I mean, that's why it makes it even more important now for us to transition to newer technology that is more user-friendly, easily accessible, and frankly, easier for IT professionals to work on. It's modern technology. And with regards to our PUA system, I mean, that system was actually put up within a matter of 2 to 4 weeks. This system that we will be implementing in June is a system that we've been working on for years. It's gone under extensive testing, and we've really been working in depth with our vendor GSI to work out any glitches and make sure that the user interfaces work appropriately. As far as the rollout itself, we are constantly monitoring the progress towards the end stages of going live with this new system. During the period where we'll press a pause to migrate the data, we will have a full staff on hand to address any issues that may arise, and that will occur once the system actually goes live. It will be all hands on deck at the department.
Next on deck, we have Lauren Rosenblatt from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Lauren?
Hey, thanks for taking the questions. Kind of along the same lines, can you explain what this 2-week period, when everything goes offline, does that mean people won't be getting benefits, or will they get them in advance or as back pay or anything like that? And then once the system is up and running, do they have to refile? Are there any concerns that they could get jammed up again as you're going through everyone's eligibility one more time?
Thank you, Lauren, for the very savvy questions. These are good questions. So the 2-week period, which will be the period where we're actually migrating data from our old mainframe system to the new UC system. And this is actually crucial because we want to make sure that during this migration where we turn off the mainframe, we are capturing the most recent data of our claimants so that the data that we're transferring over is the most up-to-date data so that we won't have any problems resuming payments on benefits. So we will be sure to put out messaging and a lot of education and information on this process as we go through it. There will be a pause on payments during that 2-week period while we undergo that data migration process. However, we will make sure that we inform our claimants so that they can appropriately prepare for it.
If any of our reporters have any additional questions, we ask you to please submit them at this time by submitting your name as well as your media outlet in the chat box. Next on deck, we have Jan Murphy from PennLive.com. Jan, you have the floor. Jan, are you unmuted? We're going to try one more time. Jan, can you unmute yourself, please? Okay, well, while we're dealing with technical difficulties, we're going to move on to our next question. We have Tom Lehman from WGAL.
Secretary, could you talk, could you offer some perspective for us as far as like technology and how quickly you can fix problems and address them when you're talking about the old system, well, the current system, I should say, and the new system? Because I think for some people who maybe don't understand, they're not inside the office, they don't really get the difference here. I mean, what's the difference when it comes to addressing issues and also handling problems as they come up?
No, and that's completely fair. I mean, I think in order to understand our antiquated 40-year-old mainframe system, you actually have to see it in progress. It is the technology with the black screen and the green dots. And frankly, it's amazing that we've been able to handle the capacity that we've been able to handle during this pandemic. We always joke around and say that the system is held together with duct tape and Band-Aids. It's essentially the gremlin of unemployment compensation information technology system. So, at this point, moving to a web-based .NET system that is more modern and has the capacity to handle changes fairly easily. The coding is much more modern. We actually have the expertise of individuals who know how to do this coding, whereas the expertise for coding on the old system was definitely in need because it was so antiquated. It's just a lot easier to work on for our folks, for our IT folks, and it's just easier to use, and it can handle a lot greater capacity.
Next, PennLive.com's Jan Murphy. Jan?
Hi there, and I'm sorry about that last glitch. I had a glitch of my own. I was just wondering for me, this project has been 16 years in the making. And it's, I guess my basic question is, we've heard this system is going to be up and running so many times. How much credence can we put in this June 8th date?
No, I appreciate your question, Jan, and I understand that you have followed the history of this UC modernization project, and the history with past vendors, and we were set to go live with this project, I believe, officially last spring. However, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And, with the creation of additional federal programs and having to implement new information technology to adjust to accepting claims under those programs, we had to redirect resources. So, making those go live dates were not possible. These were extraordinary circumstances that occurred during this pandemic, and those were the reasons why we were unable to go live at those times. And also, there's a bit of risk that you don't want to take when, you're getting hit with new claims filings that are record amounts of claims. So, we were waiting to a time where we felt better positioned within the project. We are noticing a decrease in the number of initial claims that are being filed in both unemployment compensation and PUA. And we feel right now with the progress that we've made, we're very confident that we can go live on June 8th.
Lauren Rosenblatt from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette has a follow-up question. Lauren, you have the floor.
Thanks. I was just wondering if you could share how much the system upgrade cost when all was said and done.
So the contract itself with GSI, that was bid out through a public bidding process, and it was a competitive bid. The cost of that system is $30.2 million. That's just the base cost of that actual system. Of course, there's ancillary costs, and I actually don't have that with me.
Next, we have Lee Lesniak from WCAU. Lee?
Hi, Secretary. Thanks for your time today. We are continuing to hear from viewers pretty much on a daily basis who tell us they are not able to receive their benefits for one reason or another. Something that we've heard coming up repeatedly is that the person may have reached their benefit year end and they followed the flow chart that was provided by LNI, but the payments still haven't started back up. Is that something that, might be resolved by this new system? If so, how? And what's your advice for people in that situation?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. It's interesting during this pandemic, and especially with the issues that, with the record number of claims that we've had issue and the extraordinary circumstances under which extensions were issued under the UC program and the new federal program for independent contractors and gig workers have definitely, forced us to increase our capacity at a rate that was extraordinary. So, a lot of times, we're receiving new guidance from the Department of Labor on how to extend these programs, and we're facing new situations, especially when it comes to extending the benefit year end, especially when we have so many people on extended benefits programs. I know that we're working with our communications office to deliver messaging. I've heard that there have been some glitches with our folks, perhaps not necessarily giving the most up-to-date information, but we are working on ensuring that our staff are trained and that we're sending appropriate information to claimants so that they know how to handle what to do when their benefit year ends. We are constantly making improvements every day.
Emily Ritchie from One United Lancaster, you're next on deck.
Hi, and thank you for your time again. And my question was that in March, it was reported that the call center for unemployment benefits was dramatically expanding from like 500 to 1,000 staff. And I was wondering how the new computer system upgrade maybe changes or doesn't change this call center strategy. Thanks.
No, thank you for your question. That's actually a very important question. This going live date for our UC modernization does not impact our UC customer service initiative. Actually, we think this is actually a benefit to going live with our benefits modernization project, because we'll actually have the capacity to handle the potential influx of calls that occur when we do implement the new system. So we'll be able to provide better customer service when we do go live with the new system in case our customers have any questions about implementation or about new processes that they see.
Next, we have Jan Murphy from PennLive.com with an additional follow-up. Jan?
And just to go back to the history of this project, with regard to the IBM, dispute, has that ever been settled? Is that ongoing? And then I just want to be clear that I heard you right. So for 2 weeks, recipients of unemployment compensation benefits will not receive any money. Those are my two questions.
Thank you, Jan. Concerning the first question, I mean, I think it's clear that IBM previously failed over the course of 2 administrations to deliver a modern, integrated, and comprehensive computer system to manage our UC programs and to replace our 40-year-old legacy system. Currently, the IBM contract that ended during the Corbett administration remains in litigation, and I'm unable to comment further on it. And concerning your second question regarding the 2 weeks, currently this only impacts traditional unemployment compensation claimants. This does not impact our PUA claimants. And there is a 2-week period where the mainframe will be shut down so that we can migrate the data to the new modernized system. And during that time frame, claimants will be unable to file for benefits. It's not that they're not getting paid for 2 weeks, they'll be unable to file during that time frame. They already file bi-weekly, so it will temporarily be delayed until the new system is implemented.
Okay, Charlotte from WTAJ would like to ask a question. She's not listed on our participants list. So Charlotte, if you can submit your question via the chat feature, I will make sure that we put you in a queue. Next, we have a follow-up question from Tom Lehman from WGAL. Tom? One moment, Tom. We may need to get you unmuted here. Okay, Tom.
Thank you. Secretary, I spoke with one person who we've spoken to in the past, and they said they got to the point with not getting their claims filed. They were eventually able to get employed, which is good. However, they also said that at this point, I guess the unemployment system says they have been paid or their claims have been filed, but they've never gotten a single dollar, and they're wondering about next year and taxes. And I know a lot of other people are having many other discrepancies. My question is there going to be some kind of process or way for people to reconcile some of these issues, especially if and again, this is a specific case, but I think a lot of people, they're looking at the system right now, it's saying one thing, it may say a different thing on your end or whatever, their money's not getting there. My question is there going to be some effort to reconcile some of these issues this year, especially when again, if somebody gets a tax document saying they got paid money that they never got, that could be a problem.
Tom, thank you for your question. I mean, we already have a process in place. If somebody receives a tax document and they didn't receive any benefits in that year, they are to submit it to our website. I believe we have a resource account and a process listed on our website. We can provide more information to you on that. But we will continue to work tirelessly until we resolve all UC issues. That's the plain truth of it. We're not sitting back and relaxing once the system goes live. We will continue to work to resolve claims and resolve any issues that claimants have. We're here to serve you.
WTAE's Paul Van Alstall. Paul, you're next.
Hi, Madam Secretary. As you're probably aware, GSI was subject to some critical audits in at least 2 other states where they did modernization projects. First, are you aware of those audits? And secondly, what are you doing to ensure that Pennsylvania doesn't face the same problems that some of these other states faced that dealt with GSI?
No, thank you for your question, Paul. We are aware that GSI does have other products in other states. The successfulness of them is, we've spoken to sister states, we've learned best practices. We've also realized that, we need to make sure that we have constant communication with GSI and that we work through any issues as quickly and as clearly as possible. We have really good lines of communication with GSI. We meet with them weekly, and a lot of times more than weekly, to make sure that we are clearly communicating, ironing out any issues that we have so that we can minimize any kind of potential glitches that will occur when we do go live.
Next, we have the AP's Mark Levy on the line. Mark, go ahead, please.
Hi, Secretary. I wanted to follow up on Jan Murphy's question just to make sure I understand correctly, and I apologize if you've already addressed this, but You're saying that for 2 weeks, UC claimants, traditional UC claimants, will be unable to file. So does that mean that claims that they normally would be receiving every week, or sorry, payments they would normally be receiving every week, they won't receive for, say, 2 weeks?
So Mark, actually in our current UC system, UC claimants receive payments bi-weekly. So depending on how the timing of that would fall with their regular claims filing, their biweekly claims filing, that would be how their payment would unroll. We definitely will have more information coming out regarding this period where the transition period where we'll be transitioning to the new system. So please stay tuned. I don't have all the details right now, and we plan on engaging in extensive communication and education on this issue so everybody's fully aware of what's happening.
Secretary Barrier will pause here for one moment to see if we have any additional questions before we wrap up today's call. And it looks like we do have one from WESA, and Julie will be next on deck as soon as we get Julie unmuted. One moment, please. Julie, you have the floor.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I was just wondering, you said that this was stalled for a year because of the pandemic. Why move to this system now? Why not wait until you're kind of seeing fewer claims?
No, thank you, Rebecca. I mean, I'm sorry, your name is not, what is your name again?
Julia.
Julie? Yeah, I'm sorry, Julia. My apologies. It's been a long day. So, now is the right time to move to the new system because, like I said previously, we've experienced a decrease in the number of initial claims filing, and more people are getting vaccinated and going back to work. We're noticing a bit of a decrease, and we're at the point in the project where, frankly, it's time, and we're ready to go live. We're ready for a new system. I mean, using the 40-year-old mainframe legacy system during this pandemic has not been ideal. And we feel that it's a safer move to this new system so that we can appropriately accommodate any future changes in our unemployment compensation or the extension programs that are created by federal law.
Next, we have Charlotte Ames from WTAJ. Charlotte?
Yes, thank you for letting me ask a question. My basic question, I just wanted to clarify the 2-week period as far as people receiving their payments.
So the 2-week period is going to be a period where individuals are not going to be able to file their biweekly claims. As far as the payments, I think we're going to have to follow up on that question. I'm not quite sure how the timing of that works because while we process the claims, the Department of Treasury is the one who actually processes the payments. So any claims that would be filed prior to that period, that 2-week pause, the benefits would be paid as a result of the Treasury Department issuing payment. But I think we're still working out the logistics of that, and we'll definitely have further information on that.
Our next question is Emily from One United Lancaster. Emily, you have the floor.
Thanks. My last question is just, how long have you been working with GSI specifically? I know this is like a long process of figuring this out with other organizations, but how long have you and GSI been building this?
It is my understanding that the contract to GSI was awarded in 2017, so since 2017.
Thanks.
Okay, and our next and final question for today will be from Mark Livy from AP. Mark, you're next. Mark, I need you to unmute your audio, please, and you are next.
Hi, Secretary. Just to put a finer point on this, it sounds like you're not crystal clear as to whether someone may or may not miss a payment if they're filing UC claims.
Mark, it's not missing a payment. There will be delayed payments as a result of not being able to file their biweekly claim during that 2-week period. It will be a delay.
Okay, so it will be delayed. Got it. Understood. Thank you. That's all I wanted to clarify.
Okay, Secretary Barrier, do you have any final thoughts to leave with our reporters this afternoon before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for attending today's media briefing. We're actually really excited to be able to present some good, positive news coming from the department that we think will greatly help Pennsylvania's unemployed and also help our workforce in processing claims. So we really look forward to partnering with you and getting this message out and helping to provide education to Pennsylvanians as we roll out this new system. We really want it to go as smoothly as possible. So thank you all.
And with that, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and please email our communications office with any additional questions. Thank you and stay well.